Kurt, an unbelievable start to the playoffs in the NBA. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on the number one Utah Jazz losing to Memphis. What happened?
Yeah, they really missed Donovan Mitchell, first off. I mean, I don't want to take anything away because Ja Morant has been fantastic through the play-in and through this, but they missed first off, they handled that so poorly in Utah, where they didn't have him, told him he was going to play, had him practicing with the team, had him out there, then pulling him back. Like, they just had to have him out there. And you could see it. Their lack of shot creation when he's not out there, they're just not the same team. And it messes with everything else they do. But give the Grizzlies credit, man. The door was open and they pushed their way through. I don't know how that's going to hold up in a series. Utah, even without Mitchell, they're not going to shoot 25% from three again, right? I mean, is it just me? Utah's better than this, right?
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there, 25.5% from three, and Utah is the consummate 3-and-D team, right? I mean, if you're not hitting shots, that is the whole offense. I think one other note to point out is Jordan Clarkson, their spark plug, only had 14 points off the bench, right? And mind you, this is all without Donovan Mitchell, and they lost by 3. So in my mind, it's almost hats off to Ja Morant. He has showed me he is legit. The Memphis Grizzlies, Dylan Brooks is playing at a super high level. I love what they're putting together. They have the fight, but it's just unsustainable. Like, if Utah hits shots, this is a different series.
It is. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks has had just a breakout playoffs and postseason, hasn't he? He's been fantastic. And I think, look, I love the way they're posted. Remember, Jaren Jackson Jr. missed most of the season. He has not really been himself yet. This team just gets better. I like the way they're built. I think that they play hard. They play their defense right. I like everything about them going forward, but they're still just – I don't love them in the series. I still think they're just overmatched.
Yeah, I mean, Utah just has too much firepower. And like I said, if they play the way that they can play, think about the end of that game. Bogdanović started hitting shots, and then it started saying, okay, wow, this is actually a game. Where was this in quarter one? Where was this in quarter two, right? So if they have any semblance of the Utah team that they look like in the earlier part of the season, I just don't think Memphis can keep up because they played a good game. I mean, Ja Morant had 26 points. He's been so consistent. Valanciunas also looks really good. He's giving them solid minutes and dominating in the paint against, mind you, Rudy Gobert, who's one of the Defensive Player of the Year finalists. So, I mean, they are playing well, but over the course of a 7-game series, I think it's going to balance back out and it's going to go back in Utah's favor.
Yeah, Valanciunas had a great season, by the way. He was like this all year long. It's just nobody noticed. He's been great as well. Like you said, I like everything, but Utah's going to start hitting shots.
But let's go to the other team, Phoenix Suns, number 2. They beat the Los Angeles Lakers, and late last night, the Lakers evened up the series. What is your thoughts on this series between Phoenix and Los Angeles?
How's your shoulder feel?
I know. Chris Paul only played 2 minutes in the fourth.
Yeah, he wasn't the same out there. I mean, you could see it the first game when he got that friendly fire elbow and basically has a stinger, right? He couldn't dribble the ball with his right hand, and you're talking about a guy who just has the ball on a string. It is such a floor general. And with all due respect to Cam Johnson, who stepped up and hit some shots, yeah, it's not the same. It's just not the same. They need Chris Paul's being out there on the floor, making plays, doing all this, as a shot creator for everyone else, getting a few buckets, his defense, his peskiness, everything that Chris Paul does, they miss. And I think that that's the biggest part of the series. But give the Lakers credit. They hung in that second game. It was tight down to the end. They finally went to Anthony Davis at center. And, wow, 7-0 run, pull away again. Like, I don't know why they saved that weapon for so long, but I ultimately, when they've gone to that, they're better.
Well, let me throw you a stat really quick. So in the first game, game 1, Anthony Davis was 5 for 16.
Yeah.
And he finished up with, let me get the final point total here, 13 points. Game 2, 7 for 15. But he ends up with over 30 points. What was the difference? He had 21 free throw attempts.
Yeah.
Versus 5 in the first game. So that to me has been the biggest change. Everyone else, like Andre Drummond, by the way, had some really nice minutes for them in the interior. I mean, once Anthony Davis and Drummond continued to attack Saric, get the Phoenix Suns in foul trouble with DeAndre Ayton, everyone was a little nervous. Everyone had 4 fouls. And then it's like, well, what do you do with Anthony Davis? There's just no way you can contain him on the perimeter, especially not in the interior. So and you're in foul trouble, just forget about it. So I think that was kind of the biggest difference in my mind. If you have 20 free throws, I mean, of course, right? It's going to be a different game.
The one other thing that I think to watch per game, but also just in this series, and frankly, for the Lakers, if they advance going forward, LeBron James through 2 games now, 5 shots at the rim, 16 threes. That's not the profile of healthy attacking my ankle is good LeBron James. I mean, LeBron James gets downhill, gets to the rim, is unstoppable in transit, gets out in transition where he's just literally unstoppable. He's not been that guy. And the Lakers, maybe they can win the series with look, his jumper's fallen for him, especially in key moments. He's hit big shots in big moments because he's LeBron James, and he always does. But I don't know how sustainable, how far can they go if LeBron James isn't fully healthy and getting downhill and getting those easy buckets? They need that LeBron James back down the line. They've got to get it at some point.
It's interesting, though, because if you think about how old LeBron is and how his game is so physical, every player has to adjust as they get older. And this is this is the adjustment LeBron is making. Is he's becoming a better three-point shooter. He's more of a facilitator, getting 10 plus assists a game. So it's interesting to see how Anthony Davis, when he's not playing well, when he's not having a 30-point game, the Lakers can't maintain that, right? Because that toll on a 7-game series and LeBron, go in there and be the bulldozer you were when you're 20s. That he's not Zion. He's not Zion's age. He's not 21 and doing that anymore. So that's why Anthony Davis is such a critical part of this team. And you saw in game 1 the L because he wasn't doing what Anthony Davis needed to do. And then in game 2, it's a different ball game when he takes up that mantle. So I'm with you. It has to come down to Anthony Davis picking up the aggression that LeBron James is adjusting out of.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we've talked through this whole thing so far, and we've talked about LeBron James and Anthony Davis, which I think says everything you need to know about the Clippers supporting cast right now. Dennis Schroeder had a really nice game. They've had moments, but this really is still a top-heavy roster. They live and die as LeBron James and Anthony Davis go.
But Caruso had that amazing ball fake and dunk. Can we not? I mean, over at Devin Booker, I want to throw Caruso some love.
Look, man, there's 29 other teams would like to have Alex Caruso on that roster, right? That guy just plays hard on defense, makes hustle plays, makes smart little plays. The Lakers can't let him go. It's too much chemistry with LeBron too. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid good money and has earned it. He has earned his way into these spots, man.
Man, he's one of my favorite players. So my last question on that series is: who do you think is going to win the series? Do you think Phoenix can come out on top?
I think it's a toss-up right now, don't you? I don't know where you are. We're 1-1 heading back to LA. Your sense is, hey, the Lakers. This Lakers got one on the road, but I got a feeling this series is going to go 6 or 7. I think it's pretty tight. A lot of it will hinge on just where Chris Paul is physically and how he gets back again. They need him, but I think this could be a really long series. So I'll take the Lakers because I'm just not going to bet against LeBron James ever again, probably. but it's tight. I think that, especially if Chris Paul comes back healthy by game 4, I think this is a toss-up of the series. Yeah,
Devin Booker's ice cold, and I like the way that the Suns are playing. But I'm with you. I have to go the Los Angeles Lakers because it's Anthony Davis is the key here, and he's starting to put it together. Even when he had a bad shooting performance, like I said, 7 for 15, it's not like he was dominant the way we've seen Anthony Davis be dominant. He still put up 30 points, and he still is unstoppable. And with Chris Paul out, can Cameron Payne continue to perform at that high of a level night in and night out? Yeah. And now the Lakers found the formula. You just get the guys in foul trouble. You get Jay Crowder off the court early. You get Saric, and you get those rotations in early. So Monty Williams has to just keep switching out the big men. And everyone's a little confused. Saric looked hesitant. I think it's all Los Angeles if they just keep pushing that formula.
I'm with you. At the end of the day, I like it. I like the way the Lakers look. The Lakers are defending champions for a reason.
True. Next, the other team in LA. I know you were at the game. You were at the Mavs Clippers game. What do you think about that series?
First off, Luka Doncic is insane. It is unbelievable to watch him in person just pick a team apart. First off, hitting shots like that. There was one at the end of the half. They decided to get a 2-for-1, and he comes down and hits a one-legged running right across his body. You took that in a game, and your coach would pull you, and he brings it like it's nothing. It was an incredible performance. But you know, what's really working for them is the Mavericks are shooting 50% from three, and it's their role players who are knocking everything down. Luka's carving them up, and they're sending the doubles, but Tim Hardaway Jr. had 28, I think, in game 2, but Hardaway Jr., Porzingis had 20, Kleba, Hardaway, Porzingis, Kleba, 11 of 14 from three in game 2. Like, they're shooting so well from deep. They're making you pay every time you make a defensive mistake. And the Clippers are making a fair amount of defensive mistakes. Luka is hunting the matchups he wants. If Zubac is on the floor, Doncic is finding him and going at him. It's merciless. And when you take him off, he looks at, by the end of the game, he was backing down Patrick Beverley, a good defender. Not big enough, not strong enough, backs him down, shoots over him, and just talks the whole way down the court in Beverly's ear. Let him have it. It's an impressive performance. And that said, I know they're down. The Clippers just lost 2 at home, and the Laker fans are enjoying piling on them out here in Los Angeles. I will tell you, they've made sport of this. I don't know that this series is really over because I don't think Dallas can sustain shooting 50% from three for, a few more games.
Yeah, so we know Luka is going to do his thing. He's going to get a 30-point triple-double every night. That's just what Luka does. But you're right. Can Kristaps give you 20? I mean, Hardaway has given you 20 plus the past 2 games, and he's been shooting so well from deep down the stretch, right? So if the shooter's going to be open because you're playing with one of the best passers in the game, right, who draws so much attention and, like you said, is a mismatch nightmare. So he's going to get his, Luka. But can the open shooters hit shots? They've been able to hit shots thus far, but don't sleep on the Clippers because we've seen this time and time again with this team. You think they're out, they end up finishing third. It's like you think like they're fading into obscurity. They come back from 30 points down and beat you. Like Kawhi is a machine. He's a robot. Paul George is a machine. He's a robot. These guys, like in the game 1, you look at their stats, both in the mid-20s. Then game 2, Paul George elevates his game. He gets you high 20s, and then Kawhi goes for 40 points, right? And they still lose by 6 points with the Dallas Mavericks shooting 50% from three. And that's exactly my point is that, I mean, the Clippers, they're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So, and if you actually look at the breakdown of turnovers and who's out rebounding who like the shooting percentage, it's pretty evenly matched. The only difference in my mind is that Hardaway is giving you 28 points. Can he give you 28 points over 6 or 7 games? That's another question.
Yeah, that's the question. It's a lot of what can Dallas do to sustain this? Can they hold this up? We'll see. But I really like how they're playing. By the way, if you don't like watching defense, the first half of game 2 is perfect. 73-71 at half with both teams shooting better than 60%. It was an offensive fest. You said Kawhi Leonard with 30. It was just weird to watch in person. Like if you think playoffs, it's going to slow down. It's going to tighten up. Yeah, no, it wasn't.
You have 2 guys who are unstoppable, like you said, Luka. I mean, what are you going to do? You put Morris on him. He's faster than Morris. You put Zubac on him. He's going to do a step back 3. You put Patrick Beverley on him. He's going to back him down. And anything you give him, any look you give him, he has a counter. Yes. And that is what great offensive players do. And that's why he gets a 30-point triple-double nearly every night because, I mean, there's really nothing you can do. There's nothing. And he's a pro. I love watching Luka because he's so good at getting to his spot. That left corner, the top of the key, left about 3-4 feet off. That step back 3, he always hits. He hit it in the bubble for that big against the Clippers. He always gets to his spot every single time. And there's just nothing you can do. He's too strong. He's too big. He's too fast.
He's so good at using that strength, by the way. He bodies into you and gets his shoulder on you and then steps back because he knows you can't push into him. Like it's brilliant.
And the whole time, too, is surveying the floor. That's what's so crazy is that he's so big and so under control because of his strength and his size that he can be driving, hitting contact, and still looking. And even mid-shot, he can always dish. He's always looking. And you see that in the greats like Magic Johnson. He was always looking, head on a swivel. Even LeBron, he's always playing under pace. He's never over himself. He's outside of his body. He's always in control, always looking to pass and can pass even mid-shooting motion. The other guys I want to bring to your attention is this Milwaukee Bucks Miami Heat rematch. Yeah, it's heavily in the favor of the Bucks. What are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, the Heat are in a lot of trouble. I mean, I think the Bucks had their rough game in the first one and still won. And then where they didn't hit their threes. They obviously, when the threes fall like they did in the first quarter, nobody was beating that Bucks team. But look, first off, for the Bucks, Giannis has been good. I mean, he put up 28 points in the second game. Like, he's playing well, but he's shooting 44%. He has not been overwhelmingly good. Like, he hasn't been MVP good, Giannis. This shows you how much better they've gotten as a team, where Drew Holiday's making plays. Chris Middleton's hitting game winners. Like, their role players, their other guys are stepping up, which was ultimately the plan, right? I think the other thing is I think Miami, I mean, they're going to play hard. They're going to go home. You will see that renewed Miami energy. That's in the DNA of that organization. I just don't think they match up well. I just think right now they miss Jay Crowder terribly. And the other problem now they're running into is they're having trouble containing him, Giannis Antetokounmpo, with just Ariza. But also they're forming that wall. Well, now that they're kicking out and they're hitting the threes, with Bryn Forbes making it rain on them just incredibly, but all those other threes are falling, well, it just blows up your wall, right? Like, you can form the wall and pack it in, but if they're now hitting threes over the top of your wall, you're in trouble. And I don't think the Heat have an answer, especially this year when they just don't look as sharp and they're not getting as much out of Bam. They're not getting quite as much. They're certainly not getting as much out of Tyler Hero. I think Miami's in a lot of trouble.
Yes, you could see the frustration during that game. I mean, like you said, though, Bryn Forbes was shooting 67% from three. Yeah, he was 6 for 9, and most of those came in the first quarter. So it's just like when Bryn Forbes is giving you 22 points, and like you said, Giannis is automatic 28 points, and he's an automatic double-double, and he's missing free throws. So he's leaving points on the table too. It's just right now Milwaukee's completely outplaying the Miami Heat. But if we know anything about this Heat team led by Jimmy Butler, it's that they're going to go down swinging. So we know that these last two games are not going to be a walk in the park, but it does look like we're entering into sweep territory. It's just, I mean, the morale looks so low on the court for Miami.
Yeah, I think that look, you only get so many chances to steal on the road against a good team. And, we saw Memphis take advantage of it. We've seen teams take advantage of it. The Heat missed their chance, and that's going to be really tough. Maybe it's a gentleman's sweep. Maybe they get a split at home, but they don't look like a team that's going to be able to outplay the Bucks right now.
No, not at all. And I want to say too, though, I love the addition of PJ Tucker for playoffs. Huge. Yeah. And then the other piece that I just absolutely love is the fact that when Giannis doesn't have the ball in his hands, he can just be like this huge eagle, this hawk. And he's just like a bird of prey. He just slashes into the paint. And then you just have Drew Holiday or, Chris Middleton just dishing it to him in stride. And who's going to stop Giannis full speed? So he's just like lightning. You just never know where he's coming from. It's all in transition. And when he's like that, I mean, that is just the scariest thing I've ever seen. There's just no answer. You have to foul him, and you hope he misses his free throw. Otherwise, I mean, there's just nothing you can do. He's too fast, too strong. That I love that aspect of his offense. And it's crazy to me that you can get 28, 30 points a game doing that.
Yeah. He is way more versatile, and being able to use him off the ball now in a way they couldn't in previous seasons makes them so much more dangerous.
Last matchup that we need to highlight is the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. What a performance by the young Trae Young in the Garden to silence the entire Garden. What were your thoughts on that series thus far?
I think Trae Young likes playing the villain. Like, he thrived in that. The chants were raining down on him. They're letting him have it. Now, in no way was it political pandering for Bill de Blasio to go on his weekly talk show and say, "Stop hunting fouls, Trae." Like, he's got the Reggie Miller mantle, right? Michael Jordan, Reggie Miller mantle of most hated guy by Knicks fans. It's been awesome. And he's thrived. But I think the real key for them is just in those wins, the depth they've had. Bogdanovich has had great games. In game 2, Lou Williams comes off the bench and has 13, 15, whatever it was. That extra scoring, that they have places to go for scoring that aren't just Trae Young. And the Knicks, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to score if it's not Julius Randle. It'll be interesting to see how game 2 goes. I think you get new energy from them and some better defense from New York. This is a really good team, and I think this is going to be a really fun series. But I think you saw the depth the Hawks have. That's a real problem for New York.
Yeah, like you said, in game 1, Lou Williams, he by the way, is like instant offense sometimes. You just put him in, boom. This Hawks team is interesting because it's basically, when I watch them play, I'm like, okay, well, Trae Young is either going to do a floater. It's almost like a river with one kind of tributary. He slashes down on the right side, and he does the floater, or he like dishes it out to an open shooter who is either Gallinari or Bogdanovic. But the fact of the matter is that New York doesn't really have an answer for it. Trae Young has been unstoppable. But the biggest thing was just like the Lakers. It was when Trae started going to the free throw line. He had 4 attempts, I think, the entire game until the fourth quarter, where then he gets 10 plus attempts and ices the game. When Trae Young is attacking, and the crazy thing too is that it wasn't like he wasn't aggressive all game. It's just the New York plays so physical that the refs weren't calling anything. So that's going to be the difference maker for me, is if Trae Young, who is one of the top players in the league, getting to the line, if he continues to get to the line, that's going to slow this game down even more. It's going to take New York out of their rhythm. And like you said, if Julius Randle isn't scoring, he was focused on distributing the ball and facilitating. Can Alex Burke really give you 20 plus points every game? You know, can he make it rain from deep like he did last game? Is D Rose going to have that crazy performance off the bench like every single game? You know, I know he's a former MVP, so the answer for D Rose is probably yes. Yeah. I would like to see Alec Burks continue to play so well, but you know, like that was an unbelievable performance by Alec, and still they couldn't pull out the win. And that is the question for me, is where is the scoring going to come from?
Yeah, because I think Randall's got to score more and pass a little bit. I mean, I know you want to set up your teammates and make those plays, but at the end of the day, he's got to take on a little more scoring, and he can't be just facilitating. Look, that works great on a Tuesday night in January against the Magic, but you know, in the postseason, he has to score more buckets. He's going to have to. I think their defense will improve. It's like Tom Thibodeau has had them playing hard. The problem, one of the real challenges I think for New York in this series and the playoffs in general, is they won a lot of games and they got that 4 seed because they played so hard every night. They were going to outwork you. That's much harder to do in the playoffs. Everybody's focused. Everybody's dialed in. Nobody's kind of coasting through the game. Nobody went out last night. And well, not always, but usually nobody went out last night. The guys aren't showing up quite as they're showing up with a little more intensity. That edge goes down, and you've got to make up for it in other ways. And the Knicks just haven't yet. We'll see how this series rolls out.
And the Garden, they were cheering for everything. So it was crazy because I was thinking, I was like, have the Knicks led in this game yet? there was one time, I think it was their first lead of the game since like early in the game, and it was late in the third quarter. And I was thinking every single possession down the floor, it feels as if the Knicks are winning. And I kept looking at the score. I was like, there's a dissonance here between the fans in the Garden and what's happening on the floor. Like the Knicks aren't winning. They're not leading the game. It's been the Hawks all day. And I just think it's very interesting. That's how I feel about this Knicks team. I'm like, there's so much hope here in the city. I live in New York. There's so much hope, but it's like it doesn't translate. It's like this isn't. Look at what's happening on the court. You know, they've only led twice this game, but I do think that they're right in it. The question, like I said, is can you stop Trae Young from going to the free throw line? And they were able to do it for 3 quarters, but in the fourth, it slipped away, and then he hits the dagger in the last minute. Like that's going to be the question for New York. Can you stop him from going to the free throw line? Yeah,
not fouling is key. Trae did this all year long. He was a guy who got 4th most free throw, almost 9 free throws a game. That was his season average. He just gets there a lot. And you've got to find defending him without fouling is just hard because you've got to keep Derrick Rose on the floor, but he can't really guard him. And Nikola Tina is probably your best defensive guy, but he mucks up your offense and things grind down when he's out there. So it's just a difficult matchup for the Knicks. They just don't have a great Trae Young stopper. And by the way, 29 other teams don't have a great Trae Young stopper. It's really hurting them in the postseason.